Good morning and welcome to the Sports Carnival, live from the Trauma Center studios. The Packers season may not technically be dead, but it's on life support as Aaron Rodgers and the Pack have more miscues than Stevie Wonder playing pool. Now who's your host, Dave Carney.
Hey now, my man Stevie Wonder, I don't know if he was a great pool player, but I heard shuffleboard, man. He was all over the place. Just,
Yes.
slipping and sliding. Oh, my God, Chad. The Green Bay Packers lose to the Tennessee Titans last night, 27-17. Aaron Rodgers was absolutely atrocious. And this Packers season at 4-7, guys and gals, I'm sorry to say it's over. I was going back and forth last night with one of our fans, one of our audience members, James Owens. And on Twitter, Chad, last week, James was telling me all about how Green Bay, after beating Dallas, was going to run the table and kind of admonished me for taking a counter offensive to the Packers' great season that they've had so far. Well, last night, interestingly enough, I get a tweet from James. He puts it out there at the Sports Carney saying, season's over. And I had to push back. James, wait a second. I thought they were going to run the table. What happened? You jump off that bandwagon so soon. And to paraphrase, he says, I forgot Joe Barry was our defensive coordinator and Aaron Rodgers wasn't playing great. And to that end, Chad, I already gave you sort of an inside look at the poll question. Go to our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney or the Facebook group page and grade Rodgers' performance last night. I want to get your grade on Aaron Rodgers' performance last night because for the first time this season, in a post-game press conference, Chad, Aaron Rodgers actually admitted that he missed a few throws. And that is being about as fucking polite as anybody could ever be. That dude was hot trash last night. Missed every fucking throw except for two to Christian Watson and left so much on the field. It was sad.
I disagree. I think the first three quarters, when I was watching that game, the first three quarters of that game, I was thinking, wow, this is a really good game. I'm really enjoying this, and this is going to be an interesting conversation tomorrow. I thought, obviously, that the Titans were going to still win, but I thought it was really competitive. To me, he didn't really start falling apart until the fourth quarters where he missed most of his throws. Obviously, that first touchdown to Christian Watson, taking advantage of the clock, taking advantage of them not having the right personnel on the field, that was great. Al Michaels had Aaron Rodgers' cock in his mouth, and what was great is to hear that. That's always nice to hear him give him flowers, as you like to say. I mean, they were praising him like he's the only guy that's ever thought about doing that.
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers is the only guy that would. I'm like, come on, it's. But I thought he actually played fairly well the first three quarters. It was the fourth quarter where he really, I thought, fell apart, in my opinion. The other thing that they did last night was they stopped the run. Yeah. That was the big thing to me. And then they just kept pounding with Derrick Hill, even though he didn't have Henry, a lot of yardage total. I think he ended up with 87 yards. They just
87 yards on the ground, 45 yards.
Pounding.
Don't forget, he threw a touchdown pass last night. Derrick Henry is the only running back in the history of the NFL, from what I can understand right now. And I was trying to do a deep dive on stats and analytics. The only running back in the history of the NFL to have multiple games with a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown in the same game. He has used that jump pass. This is his third career touchdown using that jump pass. Brad from Green Bay is checking in with us this morning on YouTube. Guys, we're having a bit of an issue with our Facebook thing. Not our issue, but StreamYard is having an issue. So if you're joining us on one of the platforms, nudge your neighbor and tell him to hit us up on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter. Brad in Green Bay said he was at the game last night. Rodgers looked brutal. I thought the very same thing. And Chad, we'll dive into it more because I want to assess the quarterback play, both Ryan Tannehill and Aaron Rodgers. And when you see what Tannehill's overall effectiveness was, that interception, chalk that one up for just a bad throw, which it was. But outside of that, Ryan Tannehill was scintillating last night. And that's what I want to kind of talk about when we get into the Rodgers conversation. Before we do that, though, and this is what we've got kind of going along the bottom of our scroll right now. If you're watching us on one of our platforms, if you're listening on Podbean, we'll just tell you the Aquinas Blue Golds have won their second consecutive D5 state championship, Chad. And this comes on the heels of just a few years removed from a team not being able to field a complete roster. They had to shut down the actual season because they couldn't field a complete roster. And now they're back-to-back state championship winners. Congratulations, guys. It was a really, really tough game. And they were playing at in Madison, Chad, where the Badgers do at Camp Randall. And it was cold. It was snowing. The weather conditions were not great. But these Aquinas Blue Golds, second consecutive state championship. Now, coming up later today, the West Salem Panthers will be competing for a state championship as well. And I know there's a lot of people going down to Madison to watch the game. Travel safe. Good luck. Cold today. I don't think we're supposed to get any more snow. I don't think we're supposed to get any for the next few days, but it is cold. When I took Leo for a walk outside, he actually spoke American English to me and told me to come back. He went away from dog talk, and he actually looked at me and spoke in American English and said, I think you need to take me inside.
Jeremy Foreman apparently is going to be hooking up, asking everybody else to hook up as well for this West Salem game around 10 o'clock, he's saying?
Yeah, there is no way I can make it. Yes, that's where it'll start. Wow. There is no way I can make it out of here, out of this studio, the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room, West Salem by 10 o'clock in the morning. That's categorically impossible.
Okay. Well, he's at least giving you an invite. So, I mean, that's got to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, doesn't it?
It does. Well, especially when it's Jeremy Foreman, because he comes with all the different supplements that you obviously are going to want when you want to feel warm and fuzzy inside. That's
well, that kind of weather, if you're not drinking, you're stupid.
Indeed.
I mean, you know what I mean? When it's snowing and wet and cold outside and you have to be out there to watch a football game, you better pack something. That's all I'm saying. Get a flask.
Well, P12 Foreman, he's one of our, our service members, right? We celebrated Veterans and Veterinarians Day a couple of weeks back, and Jeremy P12 Foreman, he's always prepared as a former veterinarian. I mean, a veteran.
I know Leo was big into the Veterinarians Day.
He was.
Hats off to all those veterinarians out there. I don't like going, but I know it's necessary sometimes, and I got to get shit done, right?
So basically, it's a tip of the nose and a wag of the tail when you think about the veterinarian.
Tip of the nose. Yes.
All right, guys and gals, let's take a really quick pause for the cause here on the Sports Carnival. We're flying loose and free YouTube this morning because our Facebook page isn't connecting with shit. So hopefully you're able to see us. And when we come back, we'll talk some more Packers here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios.
What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Hi, I'm Irene, and I care about you. That's why I started Care Packages by Irene, or CPBI. At CPBI, we have a wide range of care packages, from I care about you but don't get too clingy, to I'm completely obsessed with you and you should probably get a restraining order, and everything in between. Because it's CPBI, if you care, we care.
Visit us online at carepackagesbyirene.org.
Yeah, back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. Remember, good girls are bad girls that never got caught. Here's your host, Dave Carney. Is that true or what?
The most true statement I've heard this morning. We've been bullshitting a lot. That is, well, we said Rogers was hot trash, so that was true. Yeah, that's a true statement. My mother told me this, and I don't know if Cindy's listening or watching the program this morning. I'm pretty sure she is. She told me when I was a kid, be good or be good at it. Like you if you want to do something, don't get caught. That's the big thing. Because Chad, let me ask you this, and I've posed this question to my son before, and it's a bit of a riddle, but I'll give it to you, see if you can answer it. Who is the world's best cat burglar of all time? Who is the world's best cat burglar?
Pink Panther. I don't know.
Okay, the answer is probably that you don't know. Do you know why that is?
Oh, because he's the best. Yes,
that got fucking caught. That's why.
Oh, I fell right into that. I thought it was literal. Pink Panther. What a dumbass. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's an unknowable thing. You can't. If you don't get caught, then you just don't get that kind of accolade. And I'm always fine with that. Before we get into anything deep dive on this Green Bay Packer team, want to let you know, if you are tuning in right now on YouTube, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, thank you. StreamYard, the platform that we work with, is having a bit of an issue on Facebook. They'll fix this up, but we'd love to get your comments. I see Terry is checking in this morning. Terry, love seeing your comments. We'll talk some sports gambling as the show goes on. Rob Dog is with us. Jeremy P12 Foreman and Brad from Green Bay, as I mentioned, and checking in, saying last night he was at the game and he did not think Rodgers looked good. But Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, official real estate partner of the show, here to help you with all of your real estate needs. Chad, Kyle's going to be listing my house. We're going to be selling in the wintertime, but it's going to go because Kyle has the networking and the marketing advantage that you need. Our friends at the Midwest mortgage team of Land Home Financial, they're going to need to be somebody that you call now. Chad, I don't know if you saw the news last night, but the federal government reduced the interest rate, the mortgage interest rate, the largest percentile since 1981. So if you've been thinking about buying a home, but you were waiting because the interest rates are too high, make a phone call. Mike Garcia, Todd Vercruzzi, the Coos at the Midwest Mortgage Team. Now, when you get your homeowner's insurance, use the official insurance agency of the program. That is Tony Rousso and Brian Sandmeyer, Preferred Insurance, downtown La Crosse.
1981, Celtics beat the Houston Rockets.
They
for
did.
the championship. Cedric Cornbread Maxwell was MVP.
Do you think that Cedric should have been the MVP? Because there were a couple of games in which Cedric Maxwell played really good, but I thought that Larry Legend, I know that he was in his second year. I mean, Cedric Maxwell was great, and he really powered them past Houston, who had Ralph Sampson. That was a good Houston Rockets team. No Elijah won yet, but Ralph Sampson was there.
I don't think Ralph Sampson wasn't there yet. That was still the Moses. That was the Moses Malone Houston Rockets.
And a little bit later when that was 85 or 86, I want to say something in there. Okay. Well, either way, I remember Cedric Maxwell in the highlights of that. I remembered Larry Bird being as thin as he ever was in the NBA and thinking, damn, that kid was really good in that series.
I want to say that the first game or second game, don't quote me on this, I think he might have only had like 7 points. They had a couple of games where he had low scoring. He did everything else. I mean, he was a guy that, he was a trash man back then, right? He just did everything, whatever it took. But no, Cedric deserved that. Larry got 2 more after that, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's true. It's all good, baby. Baby. Lisa Mateel checking in this morning. Chad, Lisa thought you looked a lot like Patton Oswalt. And Lisa says, let's go. And it actually makes me kind of happy. Lisa's looking at us on Facebook. So that must mean we've had some sort of StreamYard issue resolved. That's fantastic news.
Well,
I like
Lisa's profile picture, you're very attractive, Lisa. And I apologize for looking like Patton Oswalt because that's not good.
I think you just made Lisa's year right there, because Lisa is a good-looking lady, and I know that she likes to be told she's a good-looking lady. So, Lisa, there you go. Breacher's with us this morning, says, good morning, fellas. Hi, Breacher. Good to see your name pop up here, and always good to have you chiming in here. Breacher used to be our meme master. Breacher's been a little slow on the memes now. He hasn't been creating as many memes as he used to. We need to get you back on track.
He's a meme master. So does he post them on, because I'm not on any of the social medias. That's why he's making them and posting them, or is he stealing from other people and posting?
I think he was making them and sending them to me. Yeah, either that or sharing something, completely out of pocket, but that's fine. Send them to me. And now we can actually display these things. This is why we love doing this new kind of a program, because we can show you. We don't just have to tell you. We can actually.
We have a contrarian on board here. I don't know if you've seen this, and this is pretty long. I don't know, understand all of this.
We have to take on this take here. I saw that too.
We don't want to get on this?
We have to, because Rob Dog says, Dave, Aquinas isn't a legit state champ. Rob, that's bullshit. And we'll go through this. When you have a Wisconsin state champion who has athletes from Minnesota and Iowa on that roster, they took players from wherever they wanted. So Rob, let me just unpack this for you, because just like anywhere now in the state of Wisconsin, and this is happening across the country, you can go to the school that you want to, right? It's no longer that you live within a 3-mile radius and you're confined to that school and there's no other school. It's called school choice. Rob, if somebody from La Crosse wanted to go to DeSoto, they could actually make that transition. Aquinas is a private school. That means that you have the ability to bring people in from wherever. You can't tell me that it's not a legitimate state championship. They had to win the game. They had to play the game. It's a legitimate state championship. Don't get salty because your team didn't win. I hear you, but this narrative about the Aquinas Blue Golds not being legitimate state champion, I've heard this before, and it's just so dumb. It's just dumb. Rob, you're better than this.
Apparently he's not. Maybe he's just trying to be I'm the contrarian. I thought Rodgers had a pretty decent game up till the fourth quarter. Apparently I didn't watch the same game you guys watched. I'm not saying he was outstanding, but I don't think he was horrible. And I thought the Packers looked pretty good for the first 3 quarters. Wow, they didn't turn the ball over at all yesterday.
Swell. And that's great. And then listen.
It's because you know what it is? It's because we're all results-oriented people. And if they would have won the game, you would have agreed with me. And granted, Aaron Rodgers threw some shitty balls in the fourth quarter, no doubt about it. He admitted it. I'm not trying to defend the guy. As I told you off there, I don't really like him. I really don't. But I didn't think it was horrible the first 3 quarters.
So here's where I think that Packer fans would push back on that. And I speak again because I'm surrounded last night by a number of Packer fans. Went to the recovery room, went to an art show, which was sweet. But when I get back, the game is in the first quarter, and it's 7-6. Mason Crosby had just gotten his extra point blocked, okay, by the Tennessee Titans. The Packer fans are what they've begun doing is compounding issues from prior seasons into even this season. So the special teams debacle, which you got to enjoy as a 49er fan last year, right, in the divisional round of the playoffs. The special teams debacle is something that Packer fans thought was going to get cured with Rich Bisaccia coming from the Raiders, who, by the way, the Raiders, I know they're saying all the right things about Josh McDaniels. They want Rich Bisaccia back in the worst way because they were playing for that guy. They're not playing for this dude, Josh McDaniels. But the point is, you bring in Rich Bisaccia, you think, great, cool. We can get the special teams short up. And then you see what has been going on with this Packers team this season. I mean, we're talking about clusterfuck after clusterfuck on special teams. And the blocked extra point, I think, is just another tell. So I could see and I could feel in that moment, and I even got a text from a friend as that was happening, what is going on with Mason Crosby and this team? That's where I think that the Packer fans are at right now. It's a compounding of years worth of missed opportunities in the postseason. And then we start to look at a team this year that was given a 95% chance, Chad, by ESPN's complete roster of thinkers, right? 95% chance to make the postseason. After last night's loss to Tennessee, the Green Bay Packers have an exactly 6% chance to make the postseason. So I think that wears on Packer fans, and then it colors what they thought about Rodgers. But let's put up the graphic. I mean, let's take a look at it, because Ryan Tannehill played superb football last night, and Joey Miller, one of our Aquinas graduates that was pulling for the Aquinas Blue Golds yesterday, he asked me prior to making a wager of his own if I thought that Tannehill over 175 yards was a good bet. And I said, absolutely, it's a good bet. He'll have, a lot of opportunities. But Rodgers, say what you will, the completion percentage isn't terrible, 24 for 39, 227 yards. But the big thing for me, Chad, is yards per attempt. The touchdown interception ratio, whatever. Yards per attempt really show you how effective the quarterback is being. 5.8 yards per attempt. Now, Tannehill, conversely, saved that one pick aside, which was just a sloppy throw. And the Packers couldn't do anything with it, by the way. They were down by 10. They couldn't do anything with it. But Tannehill, 22 for 27, 333, 12.3 yards per attempt. Derrick Henry had a better quarterback rating than Aaron Rodgers did last night. He did. Derrick Henry actually threw 2 passes and completed a touchdown on one of them.
Come on. Come on.
I hear you. I mean, I realize
reaching here a little bit.
Again, just a bit. But Chad, I don't know if you heard, and this is something else. This is why I put the graphic together like I did. I don't know if you heard, the Packer fans were booing Aaron Rodgers off the field.
I heard. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying that I'm not disagreeing. Let's just say it like this. If football games are only 3 quarters long, we would be having a different conversation. The fourth quarter was horrible. And obviously that's the most important quarter. I get it. And they had attempts to at least try to tie that football game. And it was definitely miscues. It was definitely overthrows, missed throws by Aaron Rodgers. And he admitted it. There's no doubt about it. But I thought the first 3 quarters weren't horrible. And again, I think we go back to what I think Joe DeGuano, our Green and Gold insider, said a couple of weeks ago. You guys have to be realistic here. Okay, this is about the future. This season is over with. I know 6%, whatever, and going into this game, yeah. Got to be realistic. So you have to look at what are the positives. Are there any positives moving forward? Christian Watson has scored 5 touchdowns in 4 games. It looks like Aaron Rodgers and Christian Watson may be on the same page. That's good. Randall Cobb had a pretty decent game last night. I thought the run game was a little bit off last night. But overall, I thought their defense played fairly well. I think overall, if you look at those things and look to the future and just kind of, you got to disregard this season, guys. It's over with. Let's be honest. They got to play Philadelphia next. Do you think they're going to win? What do you think that 6% chance is going to go to next week?
3.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how I'm looking at it as a realist. I'm not, and I'll be 100% honest with you. I am not a fan. Okay, I'm not a fan. I'm a 49er fan, and I'm a realist when I look at my teams. And you have to look at the future here. Aaron Rodgers is going to still be here next year. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
And is there anything to build on? That's just my point.
Well, listen, and to that point, and Jimmy Namath was saying that he just loved your take on this. And Jim's as big of a Packer fan as there is. And he was actually at the game versus the Dallas Cowboys, which was the reason that we won. And when I say we, the Royal, we won because Jim was in attendance with his very attractive girlfriend, Abby, and one of her very attractive friends as well.
Yes.
So that was the reason that the Packers won that game. Him not being there last night, obviously the reason they lost. The point that I wanted to agree with you on is this. You're right about the future of this team. And Christian Watson, not 5 touchdowns last 4 games, 5 in the last 2 games, right? He had 3 touchdowns.
Well, that's right. I meant 4 days, I meant.
Right, yeah. So he had 5 touches in the last 4 days. That's exactly what the Packers need to see. The run game, like you mentioned, the Packers didn't have a good ground game. They only rushed the ball 19 times, as conversely, the Tennessee Titans ran the ball 32 times.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something to say about building on this team. And I guess it just, and I know that it's collectively bargained and Rodgers can do whatever he wants in the offseason. And I get it. That's his professional choice. He can make that choice. But I'm looking at these other quarterbacks and how they're building their teams around the teams building around the quarterbacks, whether they're limited or not. There's a buy-in, Chad. In football, maybe more than most sports. I don't want to say more than any sport, but football more than most sports requires a really dedicated, almost like an all-in myopic feeling where you have to be eating, drinking, sleeping, this thing. There's not really a whole lot of room for extracurricular activities during the season because every single day is so prepared and planned. That's why it's like war planning to me more than any other sport. I mean, this is like consistent battle plan, and we're trying to win a war, which is a Super Bowl. If that is your idea, if that's the modus operandi, then Aaron Rodgers, in my estimation, would do a lot of favors for a lot of players by just showing up to some of these off-season workouts, the voluntary pieces. Again, I don't want to relitigate this point all the time. How long has Robert Woods played with Ryan Tannehill? 1 season, right? Why did he catch 6 passes last night? I mean, shouldn't they have been having sleepovers at their house and texting back and forth and playing Call of Duty for years?
Play dates.
Right. But I mean, for years before they could have developed the trust to throw him the football. No, it's like we were talking about with Christian Watson. This dude's a professional fucking football player. One of the few 300 best players in the world. You've got to throw him the ball. And I'll go to coaching on this. When Matt LaFleur and the Packers decided after that first play of the season in which Watson did drop a perfect pass, a perfect ball, they didn't go back to him. And last night I was talking to some guys at the bar chat at the recovery room about that very thing. You need to, as a coach, keep going back. Who else you got? Who else you got? Where was the ball going to go this year, if not to that dude? And when you didn't do that originally, I just think that particular play in that game set up a string of failures that just have led us to the point now where the Packers, like we were saying, are 4-7. And while it's still mathematically in the realm of possibility, you called it, man, this season is over. This is about looking towards next year now.
Yeah. And again, I mean, look at some of the positives. Didn't you not think the defense played fairly well? Derrick Henry is probably the best running back in the league.
Yes.
And despite all of the attempts, they held him to 87 yards. I thought that's
fair.
Well done. And you know what? The other thing that I noticed, there was some creative play calling from both teams. Now, granted, again, excluding the fourth quarter for the Green Bay Packers, there was some good play calls. That end around for the 2-point conversion by the Green Bay Packers I thought that was neat. I thought that was cool. Obviously, the jump pass from Derrick Henry, I thought was pretty cool. I love the walk off by Ryan Tannehill, acting like that the play was debunked and he was going to the sidelines and they direct snapped it. I thought that was cool. I enjoyed that football game for the first 3 quarters. I was frustrated in the fourth quarter too. It's hard to watch a guy that is as good as Aaron Rodgers completely miss throws. And I know that's what we focus on, right? It's like, that's what happens at my work. They only focus on your mistakes. You get 99.9% of everything right all day long. You miss one thing and all of a sudden you're an asshole. It's easy to play armchair quarterback.
It absolutely is. And Chad, that's why as an armchair quarterback, I will tell you the things that we get paid for here are making hot takes. And my hot take is going to cut through the buttery exterior of Aaron Rodgers. That's true. What Chad said is true. All of that's true. And we put way too much focus on one mistake, except for this. The Green Bay Packers, much like, the Bulls were in the 90s, are reliant upon that guy being so fucking good that all of the other things that didn't get addressed because they loaded up on this one guy are going to be taken care of because of Aaron Rodgers or Michael Jordan or whomever's greatness, right? That's just not there anymore to the same degree. And I think that's somewhat of a process for Packer fans and their front office to come to terms with. Now, the rest of the NFL, and in specific, the NFC North, they saw this coming. right? They saw what was happening. And when you look at what the Lions are doing and what the Bears are doing, I realize these are not playoff teams, guys, but they're building a culture. They're building a way of playing football, and they're going to be more successful. The free reign for the Green Bay Packers in the NFC North, that also feels like it's about over. You're not going to get 5 cupcake wins to just add to your overall win total every year by beating the Lions twice, beating the Bears twice, and taking 1 out of 2 from the Vikings. The Vikings are going to win the division this year. There's no question about that. Now, this is going to be, I think, a really good moment, and I know it might seem counterintuitive, but a really good moment for the Green Bay Packers and their front office to reassess exactly what it is that they need to do going forward to not waste the final year or 2 years of whatever Rodgers has left, because even if he isn't what he was years ago, neither was John Elway when the Denver Broncos finally got over the hump and won those 2 Super Bowls, right? John Elway wasn't the same guy that was battling Joe Montana in Super Bowls in the 80s, but he was good enough to get the job done. And he didn't have an ego problem about running the football. That wasn't something they got salty about. And the Broncos were able to work it out and get him to the promised land 2 times. That's what, if the Packers are going to be, real about this, they're going to have to figure out. We've got a Facebook user coming in saying, we have 37 first-round draft picks on the field for defense, and still Tannehill looks like a Hall of Famer.
I mean, I know it's frustrating, and I think it's because it's the finality, right? I think most people are starting to cope with. They had this hope, especially after the win against Dallas, that maybe, just maybe, we're going to make the playoffs. But to me, your righteous indignation should have happened back when they lost to the Washington Commanders,
sure,
or when they lost the Detroit Lions. If they would have won those 2 games, then last night's game would have been, hey, man, they still look good. We still have a shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. That's fair.
Titans are a well-coached football team. They've got an amazing running back. Ryan Tannehill, when he is on, he is on. He is not the flashiest quarterback or the best quarterback in the league, but he played really well last night. And when he does that, they win football games. I think they've won 7 out of the last 8, losing 1 of those games in overtime to the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's right.
Which the last time I looked, when you look at the power rankings, they're either number 1 or number 2.
Yeah.
So again, if you look at this differently, and I think you have to look at the whole season. You have to look at game by game. To me, I see progress with the Packers. I know that the season's over with, but you got to start thinking about next season.
Well, look, to that point, again, I'll agree with you. The Packers are about a future play now more than they are. We're betting on the future of this team. And Christian Watson is going to be a huge part of this Packers future if, in fact, the idea is still to, use wide receivers, right? If that's what the Packers want to do, is actually use wide receivers that don't know somebody intimately for 4, 5, 6 years. But that would be the takeaway for me last night. Watson did look like, and not just last night, but the last couple of games, Watson looked like he's really starting to put something together. I'm going to go to our poll question real quick. Hey, by the way, climb our poll, Morningwood, if you haven't yet, at the Sports Carney on Twitter. Another Packers loss. But this time, Aaron Rodgers actually took some blame. So I'm asking you this morning to grade Rodgers' performance last night. A, he's still so good. B, couple of misses. C, looked a bit shaky. Or D/F, this dude sucked. Chad, only 19% of respondents now have said that he sucked. 19% give him a B grade, saying he had a couple of misses. 52.5% are saying they give him a C grade, looked a little bit shaky, but still 9.5%, nearly 10% say that he is still so good. And I think that if we can even categorize Aaron Rodgers in a quarterback rating between A and C, that's fine. That's fine. You just need an A and C. Between A and C, I'm okay with. But the Green Bay Packers are going to have to make a specific dedication to the run. Now we see a Facebook user checking in with us here. John Elway had Terrell Davis. That's what I was mentioning. Doesn't Aaron Rodgers have thunder and lightning with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon? Yeah. I mean, how much better is Terrell Davis than those guys? Quite a bit, right? Terrell Davis is a Hall of Famer too. But the point is, you use the run game because the quarterback's getting diminished. You put together a stout defense and you let this thing work out. It doesn't seem complicated. And that's where, again, the 32 rushing attempts for Tennessee, 19 for Green Bay. I realize it didn't work. Tennessee was playing good defense, but I feel like what the Packers did against the Cowboys was that was the recipe. Why did Rodgers have to throw the ball 39 times? Well, they were down, but I still think that what they did against the Cowboys, down 2 scores, was the way to go. You keep running the ball. You don't go away from that. You just keep doing it. Now, Tennessee's defense was a bit better than Dallas's against the run, but still,
I may have misheard this, and I'm not as nerdy as you are about these kinds of things, but if I do recall, I believe Al Michaels said that Vrabel and Matt LaFleur are up for the same job, and they picked Vrabel for head coach.
Yeah.
There's a reason why, and we saw it last night. He did get out coached a little bit. Again, I thought that for the most part, the first three quarters, they actually they called a fairly decent game, the Packers did, but I think Vrabel's a better coach. That's the other thing that we miss here. A head coach of a football team has a huge impact. And you've said this before. Vrabel's a damn good football coach.
Yes, he is.
And he's creative, and he's got creative offensive coordinators, and he's got a great defensive coordinator. And that's also the difference here. It's not just the players on the field.
No, I agree with that. And coaching this season as a Green Bay Packer fan and somebody who, listen, I may have hedged around Packer fandom in the last 5 or 6 years, but this year, and I think part of it was going to a game with buds, not actually having to work the game, Chad, right? Just the whole experience washed over me to such a degree that I mean, like hook, line, and sinker fell down that rabbit hole. Packer fans, though, are watching this team, right, with a supposed great coach, because the record said he was supposed to be great. George Seifert and Matt LaFleur in the same conversation together, okay? They're looking at this guy that's supposed to be a great football coach get out-coached by damn near everybody in the NFL. I mean, Dan Campbell out-coached him for the Lions. Brian Daboll out-coached him for the Giants. Robert Saleh out-coached him for the Jets. I mean, the win against the Patriots now is actually aging really well. Now, sure,
Yes,
Bailey Zappi didn't know he was playing football that day and probably never thought he would see an NFL snap. And it took overtime for Green Bay to win that game, but it's looking like that win against Bill Belichick might age as the best win against a good coach because, Jesus, I feel like Jeff Saturday and the Colts would probably come in here and beat the Packers by 30 points right now. All right, let's take a quick pause for the cause. We'll come back. We'll talk some more shit here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of OneTrust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of OneTrust Real Estate.
The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest mortgage team of Land Home Financial, my good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest mortgage team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest mortgage team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi.
Back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Remember, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Now here's your host, Dave Carney. Sage, huh?
That is Sage. And the facts of the matter from last night were that Aaron Rodgers was really bad and he got booed off the field. As good as he might have played in the fourth quarter, he got booed off the field. As a matter of fact, we got a text in here from Boomstick. What up, dog? This is Eric from La Crescent saying that he doesn't recall Lambeau being so quiet as it was last night. And Chad, the exit from the stadium, and I realize it was a chilly game last night, but the exit from the stadium, which usually takes quite some time, right? There's a lingering effect and the revelry, the photo ops that you want to take. I mean, going to Lambeau Field is really one of those seminal experiences in all of professional sports. Man, these people were getting the fuck out of Dodge so quick. They're like, well, we're out. It felt like a baseball game. You know, you almost started to look at your watch like maybe if it was the seventh inning, like, okay, so we could beat the traffic, right? Like we can get out of here. The game's still going to be on when we get home in 2, 3, 4 hours, right? That's baseball as opposed to football. So you started to see people wanting to leave. But yeah, last night I was watching the exits of Lambeau Field and just streaming out of there like, yeah, well, better luck next time. On a positive note, if you want to go to a game, the tickets last night, $45. A friend of ours from the recovery room actually took a shift off because she found a ticket. $45 is what the Packers paid her to go sit there. Little known fact.
Really?
Yeah. Now you're getting $45 to go to Lambeau Field.
They have seat fillers? It's like the Oscars?
No, that would be great, though. I wish that was actually true, but she only had to pay $45 for the ticket. So there was
I misunderstood. I was too busy.
As you have
reading.
mentioned, I was being an asshole. Which is something that we litigated on the program yesterday.
Persistence is key. That's
yes. Persistence in my assholery is quite key. Everybody's favorite West Texan out here in lacrosse, Mike Byers, says that he had the realization, Chad, the Packers just aren't a good team last night. Hey, welcome to the club, guys. We've been talking about this for 9 weeks, 10 weeks. This is not a good team, and I didn't want to be that dude because, again, I fell into that fan rabbit hole this year, but there has just not been one thing this year that I've looked at and said, that's special. Now, if you just joined the program, Chad's really been on the side of the Packers doing pretty good last night, considering they lose by 10. And
I watched a different game, apparently. I don't know.
Well, again, you're not wearing these. So when you're not wearing these and your face isn't covered with green and gold, it can look different. And so therefore the hurt, the sting, it doesn't come quite as deep. It doesn't cut you quite as deep. And you're looking at it from a very, I think, reasonable perspective. And okay, look, from a reasonable person's perspective, Christian Watson and the development in the last 4 days, as you've mentioned, 5 touchdowns in 4 days. He only caught, I mean, what did he catch? 3 catches in 4 catches in that one game and 3 touchdowns. Last night had 4 more catches and 2 touchdowns. There is positive spots for this Packers. Yeah. Now, when you think about Rashawn Gary being lost for the season, another up-and-coming Packer player, that hurts, that stings. But we did get a message as well from, and I think that it just said Facebook user. Let me go back to this one. And that said Aaron was smiling more last night. Might be a step forward into getting players to rally behind him. That's something else to consider. And Chad, you're right. Aaron's not going anywhere. Joe said that too. He's not leaving $100 million on the table. That's just not happening. That's just not happening. He's coming back. And if, in fact, Rodgers and the Packers want success, which I believe that they do, Aaron Rodgers, if anything, is a proud person. Okay? He is a proud person. Failure doesn't wear on him well. You can see that. Aaron Rodgers has aged worse than most of the modern presidents in office when it comes to how he looks comparative to 4 or 5 years ago. Tom Brady looks more handsome than he did when he was a kid. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's trying out for, something in the next fucking Ring of Power show on Amazon Prime, right? Or maybe it's a Game of Dragons or something. I mean, dude looks withered. So you can tell that, he's younger than I am. You can tell that the losing doesn't go well with Aaron. He doesn't wear
dragons.
Wasn't it? He was in that dragon show or something like that.
I just love how when you don't know what you're talking about, you just make shit up. Awesome.
I used to do that
because I don't know what you're talking about either. Let's go contrarian against contrarian. Okay, Rob Dog obviously being a contrarian says, Chad, going down 20-6 at one point doesn't look very good to anyone, but still somehow the best Thursday night game we got all year.
That's fucking fair.
Again, I'm not emotionally involved in this. I could give 2 shits about the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. I've been pretending this whole time. I don't care. I don't care if they win or they lose. I want to watch a good football game. And on Thursday night, especially, this is a primetime game that's on, Amazon Prime, which is supposed to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, fine. That's great. And I have to listen to Al Michaels' smug bullshit. I actually enjoyed the game. Last night. I was like, wow, this is a good game. And then the fourth quarter happened and it sucked. And I agree. I understand why you guys are emotional because they lost. But I'll guarantee you if Aaron Rodgers would have hit a couple of those passes and they would have tied it up and they possibly would have won, I will guarantee you would all agree with me. Oh my God, they're back. Get over yourself. Okay. Be realistic. You're looking at next year. This year is over with. Period. End of story.
Okay, so all of what you said is right and none of it matters because you're correct. All of that is correct. But Packer fans, I listen, I don't know if they would have been even as much on the it's going to be all perfect bandwagon if they would have won, if they eked out a win. We see Terry checking back in. He says, I love that we talk about Rodgers and the offense, but if the defense is giving up the points they give up, then Rodgers has to be more of a Superman. Now, that's something else that James Owens, who I started off the show mentioning, to me on Twitter, was a big problem. Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator. This is where I have a hard time figuring out. Yes, thank you, Eric. I love you too.
Your assholery is awesome. Assholery. Nice work with wordplay. I like it. That's good.
No, I'm just, I'm feeling good this morning. I'm firing on all cylinders, unlike the Packers. We're just digging in deep here. We're just digging in real deep. Look, the defense is also something that needs to be addressed. And this is what Joe DeGuano talked to the audience about maybe a year or two ago. what we would really find out about the coaching staff and the general managership of Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur, what we'd really find out is how this team would be maturing in the coming seasons. And I just don't know also, and this isn't, I don't want anybody's job to be lost because I don't know Joe Barry, but this is where you have to also look at the team and the structure of the coaching staff and say, the players are who we've got, and we're going to have to draft more, but you can't change out every player, right? Like, that's just what you can't do. Yeah. So then what about the coaching, right? You mentioned that Mike Vrabel outcoached Matt LaFleur last night. He did. Matt LaFleur's been getting outcoached by pretty much everybody this season. Mike McCarthy gives him a gift for being just Mike McCarthy. Other than that, Matt LaFleur's been getting his ass handed to him in a hat this year, right? I mean, if the Bear game that was played week 3 or was that week 2? I think that was week 2 of the season. If that game was played today, I don't know that Green Bay wins that game now. I really don't. And when the Packers play against the Bears at Soldier Field, I don't know that the Packers have much of a shot. And I start to wonder, if there is any benefit then to trying to develop at least a little bit. Maybe don't put him in to start the game, but you start getting him in the third, fourth quarters. Quarterback Jordan Love. On one hand, I want to see Rodgers work with this young wide receiver guy, Christian Watson, and they need to develop that chemistry, right? So you kind of want to see him throw as much as they possibly can. But do you as an organization have to give some sort of a look to Love? Not for any other reason than if we are going to go ahead and try to trade him or give him this fifth-year option, what's the market for him? Because the preseason stuff that Love has played in has been bad. And that one game he started last year against Kansas City that the Packers lost was also bad, like really bad. So do you have to start looking at giving this guy some run and giving him some burn? I don't know, but that's something that the Packers are going to have to debate.
Jordan Love's like a Cabbage Patch doll from 1984 that's never been out of the package. What do you know? What you don't have no idea what this guy can do. So a market for what do you get?
That's kind of the point. So do you put him on the field though? Because there is something to be said about you keeping it as much of a mystery as possible and not letting people know that you've got bad wear. Right? You've got something, car's got the check engine light on it, but if I unplug it every once in a while, then I can get somebody in here to test drive it, and maybe they'll buy it from me. I don't know. Maybe you want to just keep this kid in the shelf so that you don't let him, anybody see to exactly what degree he gets to be exposed, but maybe you got to get him out there because there could be a spot in which he just has no more value at all.
Let's throw this out there. Facebook users saying 9-8 will get the Packers a wild card spot. Here's the deal. With the 6% chance, they have to go all in this next game against Philadelphia. When they lose the game against Philadelphia, then I think, yes, that's when you have to start looking at this. Obviously, I think that they'll probably try to throw everything they have against the Bears just because they don't want to lose in their own conference to the Bears, and they hate the Bears, and we understand all of that. But as you mentioned, I don't know if it's necessarily as easy as it was in week 2 or 3 whenever they won. The Bears have gotten better. Justin Fields has gotten better. Granted, they're still struggling, so you still have that. But again, I try to look at the positives from last night. There were no turnovers. The first 3 quarters were decent. As you mentioned, Christian Watson had a good game. Randall Cobb was back, caught 6 catches for 73 yards. So there were some positives there. Again, I thought the defense played fairly well, holding Derrick Henry to only 7 yards. So there were some things that they can build upon, but reality dictates that this season is pretty much in the shitter. I mean, that's just a fact. So now they have to look at, okay, what do we do moving forward? And at what point do we want to put Aaron Rodgers in the garage and save him for next year? That's a good question. And I would say probably, again, they throw everything they have at the Eagles, and then they have to go from there.
Yeah, it's not that the Packers, right, can't statistically make this run, but to the Facebook users, overall takeaway, the sentiment, that's wishful thinking. That's all that is. There's nothing to suggest that happens. And I'm just looking at the NFC conference picture right now, and the Packers are a lot closer to the very bottom of the league than they are to the top. So the Bears, Saints, Panthers all share identical records of 3-7. Not to be that guy, but that's a half a game off of the Packers right now. Those teams are just a half a game worse than the Packers at 4-7. You got Philly at 8-1, and this is the math problem that you really got. Philly at 8-1, the Giants at 7-2, the Cowboys at 6-3, and the Washington Commanders at 5-5. Right now, all 4 of those teams would be in the playoffs ahead of the Packers. All 4 of them. That's one division. The division that the Packers are in, Minnesota's 8-1. They're winning that division. Seattle's 6-4. But then you've got San Francisco, 5-4. That's 2 teams from the NFC West that could potentially make the postseason. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will most likely win that division. They're there at 5-5. this just becomes a math problem. That's all it really is. At this point now, it's a math problem. And Matt LaFleur, he's not pulling any punches, and he knows there's zero room for error. I mean, zero. If the Green Bay Packers win all of their games, that still doesn't mean they make the playoffs, because then you have to get help, from all the other teams.
Well, if we look at the Eagles, so they play the Eagles next. Eagles play, they have a little Saturday in the park against the Indianapolis Colts this week, and say they have a little bounce back game. I don't know if you saw this, but they just added Ndamukong Suh as an edge rusher, and so they're all in, obviously. So they're going to have a bounce back game, and my guess is they're going to end up beating the Colts, unless maybe Jeff Saturday has some magic wand. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know about beating the Raiders is anything to brag about. So this is a real game. And again, after the Eagles, lost that nail biter, which was probably the game of the year or one of the games of the year. We'll see what happens. So the Packers have to face, probably the second best or best team in the NFL, depending on your rankings. Mm-hmm. That's it, right? I mean, what's the likelihood of winning that game in Philadelphia?
Well, not high. There isn't a high likelihood of them winning that game in Philadelphia. And look, it's not to be an anti-Packer, because that's not anything to do with this. It's just this now becomes a real problem of math on the playoff projections, and then just being realistic with what your team is and where they're at. How would the Packers try to stop the Eagles? Like how? What would they do? Ryan Tannehill, as one of our our audience members mentioned earlier, Ryan Tannehill looked like an MVP last night. The guy threw for 333 yards, 12.8 yards per attempt, and a couple of touchdowns. I mean, Ryan Tannehill.
He threaded the needle a couple times too.
He did. Yeah. He did look great. I'm going to piss Viking fans off though as we go to break though, because Vikings play Dallas this upcoming week, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, Dallas is going to win that game.
Bounce back game.
Yeah, Dallas is going to win that game. All right, guys.
By the way, you won your bet last night because you took the Titans.
Sure did. I guess I wasn't fucking betting with my heart. I was betting with my head. I'm like, dude, these guys are going to smoke the Packers, man. All right, when we come back here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live and being assholes from coast to coast from the Trauma Center studios, I want to talk about the UWL Eagles as well as the Milwaukee Bucks, both of whom have big-time games. The Bucks tonight, the Eagles tomorrow in Wartburg. Stay tuned.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Hey, it's Todd Vacuzzi's Hot Tubs and Jacuzzis with a big announcement for the next 2 months. When you buy a hot tub or jacuzzi, you get a pair of tickets for the Big Couz's Booze Cruise. Headed to Cabo, so sop that mop and then come pop a top with me, the Couz.
Sop that mop is slang term for wet bush.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the one and only Sports Carnival. How about this from the great Ernie Banks? The only way to prove you're a good sport is to lose. Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Hey, that's something for us here in Wisconsin, right? The Packers are proving they're good sports. I like this. I like you guys too so much that Chad is, as Todd Vercruzzi, the Coos, would say, sop that mop and go ahead and get yourself a hot tub, and also get yourself a pair of tickets on that booze cruise. Chad, if you can't make it to the booze cruise, though, I want to give our audience members another opportunity, a reminder, if you will, that you can get a couple of tickets to go to a Milwaukee Bucks game. That's right. The Bucks are in action tonight on ESPN, nationally televised tilt against the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo are a really great watch, and they're the team that for Packer fans here in the state of Wisconsin are going to help alleviate some of the hurt feelings of a wasted Packer season, because again, the Bucks are probably going to be making a run for a championship, at least the way they're currently constructed. And our friends at Absolute Vodka, Jameson Irish Whiskey, and the Recovery Room, Chad, along with us here on the Sports Carnival, we want you to go to a Bucks game this year. We want you to go to a game on the 7th of December. As a matter of fact, the Bucks are going to take on the Toronto Raptors, a fierce rivalry to be sure. The Fiserv Forum is one of the best NBA arenas I've ever been into in my life. It really is. The construction design was spectacular. Chad, it's a tight, high arena that just gives you incredible views from every single place inside the Fiserv. No matter where your tickets are, and these are going to be good ones, you're going to have a great seat in the house. The way that you can win these tickets is go to the recovery room, Chad. You buy an Absolute or Jameson shot or cocktail. You get yourself an entry. Now, there is a huge cooler full of entries that is getting like fluffed up. So, now it looks like one of those trash things where you have to just pile it down because that's how many people are buying Absolute or Jameson shots or cocktails. The 30th of this month, so the very end of this month, we're going to have a huge party at the recovery room from 6 to 10. You'll get double entries all night long when you order Absolute or Jameson drinks. And then on the 1st of December, that following day, we'll announce here on the program live who was the winner. One thing to keep in mind, you do not need to be present to win on that particular evening. Now, we've talked about that before. You don't need to be present to win, but you have to get yourself into the running by going down to the recovery and getting yourself one of those entry slips, or by subscribing to us on YouTube, Podbean, or the Facebook group. You get an automatic entry. So good luck. And again, get to the recovery room. It's going to be a fun weekend for sports. We've got the Bucks coming up tonight, right? They're on ESPN. You can watch that game at the Recov. And then we've got tomorrow's UWL game, Chad, versus Wartburg. Now, we were asked earlier, what time does the UW game start at Wartburg? 12 p.m. I believe it is 12 p.m. We've got that. I know we had the time on the Eagles slide, but I believe it's 12 p.m. And actually, while I say that, I'm going to go.
Sorry.
No. You don't need to do that. I was actually thinking out loud. I'm like, while we do that, just make sure, double sure that it is 12 p.m. because I'm not sure of Iowa, what time zone they're in, if they're in American or if they're in French time zones.
I honestly don't know. All I do know is if you build it, that someone's going to show up.
Yeah. Do you know how that place is? Did you ever see the
Field of Dreams?
Yeah, but did you see the baseball games when they were doing those out there?
No, I did not.
Major league games? Oh, dude, they're awesome to look at. Let's see. Where are we at?
You like corn, though. So
they do like corn.
No, I like it. I'm just saying. I like corn.
Oh, well, good. Corn's something they have.
It's in over 50% of everything you eat.
Yes, it is. And okay, we're going to go ahead and not get into that conversation here at this point because I've got thoughts. Doesn't matter. The game is 12 p.m. The game is 12 p.m. And I see that Jimmy Namath was saying games are 12 p.m. across the country. Okay, so tomorrow's UW game, I did confirm this, 12 p.m., Wartburg, Iowa. The Eagles, again, will be on television. You can watch them at the recovery room. It's going to be a really fun time down there at the recovery room. And really, if you're traveling to Wartburg, Iowa, bring the Eagles some of that juice and that energy, some of the vibe. I know we've got listeners from Chicago that are driving down to Wartburg. So try to bring some of that Eagles lacrosse energy to the stadium and see if we can't propel our boys on for a big win here. Morning Woods saying big weekend for Bucky. Football hanging by a thread down in Nebraska. Volleyball, Rutgers versus Rutgers in Penn State. Okay, Nebraska's going to be a tough one. I don't know. After that loss against Iowa last week, I don't know if Wisconsin travels great right now against some of these other Big Ten teams. But, and this is something I didn't think I'd be saying, Nebraska looks like they're actually on the rebound a little bit here, right? Like they had a couple of just awful, atrocious years when they brought Scott Frost in. And it looks like they may be starting to figure something out a little. I haven't watched a lot of Nebraska football this year, but it feels like they're rebounding at least to a degree.
I think I watched them this last weekend, but I can't remember. I know they were playing somebody, and I just don't remember what happened.
Were they wearing uniforms? Because that's an important.
I do believe they were wearing uniforms. I think there was possibly an N on their helmet. I can't remember. I know I watched something that involved Nebraska, but I may be mistaken.
Yeah, we used to work with a guy that had a connection to Nebraska, didn't we?
Well, I tell you what, I don't know what it is about cold weather areas or Midwest, and I know you argue about Midwest, but Ohio State fans, Nebraska fans, Wisconsin fans, you guys are all crazy.
Okay.
And all you talk, everything is hyper-focused, and everything is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Oh, you know that his uncle's cousin went to Ohio State, and this guy did that, and I'm like, who cares? Why does that mean? That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. And then I always ask the question, people that love someplace so much and they wear all the hats and the shirts and the T-shirts, and then they live 6 states away. I'm like, If this place is so fucking great, then why aren't you there? Go back so I don't have to hear you anymore. You know what I mean? If anything, like I should have, like I liked Vegas. I should have had all Vegas stuff on all the time. Why are you advertising for a place that you don't even live at? You're telling everybody else how great it is, and then you live somewhere else. That doesn't make any sense.
So our former traffic guy in Vegas, Mitch Kelly, shout out to Mitch. He's from Madison, right? And Mitch was a Wisconsin guy, wore his Wisconsin stuff proudly. You ask Mitch, hey, you going to go back to Wisconsin? Never going back. You're like, why, Mitch? And he says, Mitch told me this once. He was a morning guy before he was our traffic guy in Madison. He said, yeah, I was driving to work and the snow, it like nearly killed me. And I just figured at that point, I'm packing the cat, getting the wife, and we're hitting the road. We're going to Vegas and never coming back. That part is really funny and interesting to me. But you also brought up something that I actually had a conversation about last night with my friend Yoshi, who is one of the main chefs over at the recovery room. And I told Yoshi how it's interesting to me that, like, when I first came to town here, or if I meet somebody new that doesn't know that I'm not from this area or whatever, we get into a genealogical discussion, much like the book of Genesis. It's like who begot who and who begot who. It's like what you were talking about. Do you know so-and-so and so-and-so that went to this high school? And it's like, no. And then once you don't know those people, well, I guess we have nothing left to talk about. Okay. I didn't realize that this was like a fucking ancestry quest. Like I just didn't realize. But there is something about being in the Midwest where, oh, did you know so-and-so that went to school with them? That remember that one Thursday in 1986 and they met up on that corner. It's like, I'm out on that one. I wasn't here. I just wasn't here. But the look that comes over a lot of people's faces is of shock, dismay, disappointment. First of all, you haven't lived here for the entirety of your existence. Surprising. And well, second of all, how did you not get, like, see, I didn't get that pamphlet when I first moved in. Like, they didn't give me, here you go. This is the beginning of your genealogy of Western Wisconsin.
Neil Dudas is guilty as charged, I guess.
I'm telling you, it's a thing. It's really a thing, man. And now I can actually say I know some of these people. So I'm like, yeah, I know that guy.
You know what I was referring to and who I'm referring to. I'm not going to use his name. And he was a great guy and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have anything against him. But something like what I always found funny is somebody will do something amazing and it happens to be on the news.
Yeah.
And he figures out how that's connected back to Ohio State somehow. And I'm like, I don't know why that matters. I mean, if it was a direct correlation, like the guy went to, okay, cool. But that still doesn't matter to me. I don't care. So you went to Ohio State. That's awesome. Let me pat you on the back. We work at the same place.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? It's always this thing about trying to one up you and make you feel inferior somehow. And I get it. You're proud of your school and all of that. That is great. I just find it funny how people just, I guess it's one of those lessons in being content and appreciate what you have as opposed to what you don't have. And we're always hyper focused on what we don't have. And we don't really truly appreciate the time that we have now, which is the only time that exists, is the present moment. And I want to go on some philosophical thing, but that just bothers me. It's like, live in the now, man. Yeah. Stop living in the past all the time.
This is why dogs are so happy, because they're not contemplating their future. They're just living in the, like, dude, I'm getting a scratch behind my ear right now. Will I get one tomorrow? Not worried about that. I'm thinking about it right now. I mean, that's, listen, that is something to take into consideration. Let's see.
Okay, Mike Byers says I'm an asshole. I am.
Trying to connection. Well, let's see. I think of people trying to find a connection with each other, commonalities in all. But even still, the person that Chad's talking about, and this is somebody that I know well enough, was an annoying fuck. I mean, just an annoying fuck. And he just wouldn't stop. It was relentless, people. And believe me, as much as Wisconsin fans love to hate Buckeye fans, you would have despised this man too. It also made me think, at the same time, put on a pair of pants. Like, can you ever wear pants? Like, the shorts are awesome, but you're a boss. Like, wear some fucking pants once in a while.
Wear some pants. I mean, yes.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, apparently I am way off on all of this. That's all right. Well, actually, Boomsticks is well said. Oh no, we just switched up. Well, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
In the moment, the Vikings are 8-1. Listen, that's what Eric's doing right now.
Exactly.
Well said, Chad. I'm living in the moment. I'm not thinking about the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are going to come and beat the Vikings this weekend. I'm not thinking about that. I'm living in the moment. I love that.
I love that too. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Oh, damn it. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate all the interaction. This is great. It feels like Facebook is working again, which is nice. Thanks to our first Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, the Recovery Room, Preferred Insurance, Midwest Mortgage Team, Joe's Helping Hands Landscaping, and Sean O'Neill, the O'Neill Law Firm, for making this ship continue to sail. Chad, have a great rest of your Friday, and I'll see you guys probably at one of the haunts here as we watch some high school football in just a little bit.
Go Buckeyes.